All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Leading Lessons, the only podcast that lets us learn through other people's successes, failures, and every obstacle in between. And something I've also realized when I'm talking to different guests is sometimes takes many years for someone to decide, entrepreneurship and building something from the ground up is what they want to do. Sometimes it takes a corporate career for years and years before they're like, I'm going to go do this on my own. But this guest isn't the case. This person actually realized really quickly that she was starting to think differently than the people she was working with, and she wanted to go out and do it better than other people and do it differently than other people. She actually started her business as a side hustle initially, and then it transformed into her main hustle as she started building the business from the ground up. She's also the founder of the Charleston Crossroads, which is a networking group focused on connecting Christian young adults with other Christian young adults while providing alcohol-free activities throughout Charleston, which I think is incredible. And most importantly, she's also the dog mom of the infamous Baylor, the best good boy ever. So this week, I get the opportunity to introduce my very good friend, Lindsey Anderson, the CEO of Luxely Marketing. So Lindsey, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I know my dog Baylor, who's sitting right with me right now, super appreciates that intro too. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, the dog always needs to get the call. We always know this. They're the actual main character in our lives. We know this.
100%.
So Lindsey, you started your business with a vision. What was that when you first started?
Yeah, well, I worked for a real estate coaching company for a while, and through that, I just kind of kept seeing this need of realtors needing social media help. They're so busy, they're running around, they didn't have time for social media. And so whenever I started it as a side hustle, I was just kind of helping them with that need. And then as it grew and stuff over time, I kept kind of honing in on this niche in this market and how we can help them just further their marketing and target more people to get eyes on their listing.
That's phenomenal. So you work exclusively with the real estate agents, or like what's your approach to business?
Yeah, so we work with both real estate teams and personal realtors. So, and then honestly, anyone in real estate space, we've kind of branched out into some different markets now, but primarily it was just with real estate agents. And then as we kept growing and stuff over the years, that vision of just working with agents and kind of being their social media girl turned into their full stack marketing team. So
it started with just you know, a dollar and a dream. And where are we at now, and what are you working on with them?
Yeah, so started with just me. It was a side hustle. I was not planning on taking it full time. And then over time, we grew and grew. And honestly, it was a side hustle up until about a year ago, a little over a year ago. But over that time, now within the past year, we've taken on like 15 more clients. So it's kind of over the past year, it's really doubled just because I have more time to put into it now. But we have 5 girls on our team, and then we've helped over 30 agents.
Phenomenal. So in the course of just a couple of years, because you've been doing it as a side hustle for about 3-4 years?
Yep, I started it in 2021, and I think we had maybe like 3 clients, maybe 4 clients over that time. And then within like the past year, we've just really, really grown and stuff. And a lot of that is, just timing and being able to really go in on it.
So, they say COVID was a bad thing, but for you, it came up with a whole business plan and you were able to flourish.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because I had tried to start 2 other businesses during COVID and they didn't work. And so finally, here we are, and this one kind of stuck and it kept growing over time.
So I love to hear a little bit about the failed ventures a little bit too. What were the other 2 businesses that you tried to get off the ground?
Yeah, so during COVID, I tried to start t-shirt businesses specifically for niche markets. So I was looking at designing, because I love all things graphic design, video editing, that kind of thing. So I was trying to do like t-shirts for tennis players and t-shirts for golf players. But I mean, the thing was during COVID, no one was buying that. And that was certainly not a necessity. So it wasn't something that was giving people sales. It was just kind of a fun thing to have. So yeah, those didn't work, but I learned how to kind of start a business and everything from those.
That's awesome. I always like to say you learn more through failures than you do successes. So it sounds like you came out on top on that one. Now, coming as a young professional yourself, I'm sure there were plenty of people saying, you're not going to make it. What kind of kept you going, and did you have anyone that kind of helped you along the way to get over that speed bump and over those humps and hurdles that you were going into?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm a big believer in mentors. So I have always had mentors, whether it's specifically through business or if it's for just like life mentors. So I've always kind of had a mentor. I feel like a lot of my previous bosses actually in corporate world were always so supportive of like, you know, continuing and pursuing your dreams and all of that kind of stuff. And I've just kind of kept in touch with some of those same people. But then also there's a program, and I don't know if it's just in South Carolina, I think it's everywhere, called SCORE, where you can get a small business mentor and it's completely free. A lot of them are like retired volunteers now that have owned businesses and stuff over the years. So that's been super helpful to me, especially with like hiring and stuff. That's someone that I've really leaned on. And then I think honestly, my dad like is such a big supporter of my business and has helped me a lot just like over the years with direction and stuff, because being a young business owner, a lot of people can kind of like look at you like, what the heck? You don't know what you're doing. So it's nice to have that support and just confidence from them.
Yeah, it's always great when your parents can be your number one supporters, and even if they can't buy your product or your services, it's always good to have them in your corner. Now, was your family entrepreneurial as well?
It's funny. My dad and my uncle actually did have a business whenever they were in their 20s. And it was more of like an adventure type business where they would take people out for like camping trips and ride horses and stuff. So it was like an event business. So they do have that. My uncle has owned a bunch of bookstores. And so he's really helpful for my business too, with like finances and client stuff and all that kind of thing.
It's almost genetic for you, just it was started in your DNA. It's just something that you carried through, it looks like.
Yeah, I guess so. I wasn't planning on it, but here we are.
So, now, talk to us a little bit about the networking group you started and what came up with the idea of it, and how did that kind of grow into what it is now?
Yeah, so I actually met this girl named Amanda, and that was whenever I first moved to Charleston. So I moved to Charleston. I didn't know anyone. I had a cousin that lived here, but she's quite a bit older than me. So we just didn't really have, the same friend groups and stuff. So when I moved here, I wanted to find activities and meet new people that didn't involve drinking, because I think, after you graduate college, everyone's kind of in this weird spot of how do I meet people? And I'm at work all day. Like, what does that look like? And I met another girl that actually wanted to start something similar, but make it a ministry. And so I wanted to do like, let's go to all these different events with other 20 somethings. And she wanted to do a ministry. And so we just kind of were like, let's just start something, have an event, see what happens. Our first event was at someone's house, and we just had like a worship night, and there was maybe like 30 people there. Now, I would say, I think our biggest event has been 85 people. And it's like, we'll go to the beach and just hang out, play volleyball, all get to know each other. We'll go to different events throughout Charleston. So yeah, sporting events, all that good stuff.
That's awesome. Now, I mean, I know that you relocated to a brand new city without knowing anybody. I kind of did the same thing when I moved down here to Charlotte, where it's really hard and weird to make friends as an adult. And I remember, when you're living next to your college, it's very easy just to lean into and stay with those same people. But when you get to network with people that are like-minded, that also are in that uncomfortable stage of how do I make friends, that's where the best friendships can kind of be grown from. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, sometimes whenever you put yourself in a position where you really have to go out and meet people, whether it's, for business networking or just trying to make friends, whatever it is, like you will really go at it and do your best to actually meet those people. So 100%.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Now, let's talk a little bit about, because you went from not only having to manage yourself when it was just you, and now you have a team of 5 other people that are reliant on you, that you have to lead. So talk me kind of through your leadership journey and kind of how that's transitioned over the past year or so.
Yeah, it's a great question. I feel like I haven't really thought about that. But I would say, when I started out, I actually did hire an assistant pretty early on. So I've always had at least myself. Maybe the first year it was myself, and then I think the second year I had an assistant. And so I've always kind of had at least one other person. I would say over the past couple of years, I was like, the demand is getting higher. We need more people to help with video editing, that kind of thing. And my team is fully remote. So I think with that is great because there's flexibility of working, but there's also challenges with that. If we all have to be on the same page, we have to make sure everyone's, doing their part and staying on due dates, because if they don't, then it can really put our clients behind. So something recently that we've started doing more is more of team meetings and all getting on the same page, which honestly, whenever I first started, I was super lax about that. And I was like, we don't need to do that. Everyone just get your work done. But now, I mean, as you keep growing and taking on more clients, you have to be on the same page and you have to have accountability with people. I think accountability is important in anything that you do. So I hold my girls accountable for sure, but they also are rock stars. Like they will knock things out of the park. They come up with new ideas all the time. And I think a lot of that is giving them the freedom to be creative and to be able to work from where they want to and be remote.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes the best ideas come from the lowest on the totem pole because they think differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
Absolutely. And, I know that for me, during COVID, everyone went remote. Everybody had to learn how to not only manage remotely, but also had to learn how to be managed effectively from a remote setting. And for you, you built your entire business from a remote organization pretty much. So what are some of the things you do to make your team feel special, make them feel included? Like they are part of a central location, but they're all over the world.
Yeah, I will tell you, I love some good swag. So I will always order swag for people that join my team and then also for clients. So I love something that I think is so important for both clients and then people that work for you too is making sure they feel taken care of. So checking in with the girls, making sure that, I know what's going on in their lives, sending them gifts here and there, sending them some Luxely swag, but then also just being a good person, making sure that I send them Christmas cards and Christmas gifts and all that kind of stuff, just to make sure they do feel loved and supported, because whenever people do, then they'll take care of you too. So take care of your people and they'll help you take care of your business.
Yeah, it goes back to my favorite saying, people over profit. When you put your people first, the profit will follow. And I think you're really starting from the ground up doing that, prioritizing them and letting them feel like family, even if they're all over the place. So that's a great decision. Now, let's take a step back because we talked a little bit about your successes so far, building two successful businesses. And I think that's great. But let's talk a little bit about where you kind of took one on the chin a little bit. So if you reflect back to your development, whether it's professionally or personally, what do you think has been your biggest mistake and how would you do it differently now?
It's a tough question. This is a mistake. I don't think this would necessarily be a mistake, but I think when thinking about, honestly, whenever I planned, well, I didn't really plan this business, right? It just kind of happened. I started taking on clients, and I think that happens a lot in marketing world where you go from freelance to all of a sudden you have all these clients and stuff. But I think if I were to do it differently, I would really try to figure out a market that can sustain whenever, the world is in crazy times and stuff, because I think that's the one thing with the real estate market specifically for this business is that it can get impacted. If the market's going down and no one's buying houses, then that also affects this business. So I don't know if I'd call it a mistake because I love the realtors I work with. I love interior design. So seeing all the homes is super cool. But I think if I were planning a business now, I would be more thoughtful in that approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And, something strikes me that, you're naturally a salesperson. How does that come into play with your business?
It's so funny because I actually majored in professional selling in college and I was like, I'm never going to use this. But selling is one of my favorite parts of my job now. I love it. I love getting to talk with people. I love getting to just tell them how we can help them. And that's honestly my main role now that we've grown and stuff. Sales is what I do pretty much every day, and client communications and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny how something you say you'll never do is what you transform into. I used to say, coming from a drug and alcohol background, I was like, I will never be a salesperson. I hate salespeople. And now I do it for a career. Now I'm teaching other people how to be good salespeople. And I think that it kind of just shows you naturally gravitate to the things that sometimes is the opposition because it's uncomfortable, but that's the opportunity for the biggest growth.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, you kind of learn as you go and you get to know your market. You get to know who you're serving really, really well to where then you can keep selling them better and better. But I think the number one thing I've learned is just to make sure that you're actually connecting with people, because people don't want to be sold anything. They want you to help them. And if we can help them, then you get a sale.
Yeah. If you can solve their problem, whatever that may be, then they're going to become a client of yours.
Yeah.
So, Lindsey, talk to me a little bit about where you see your business in the future. What is your growth plan now that you've hit a milestone that you didn't even know you were going to hit?
Yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot. I think we're starting to kind of expand into some different markets now. We've had residential down. I feel like we know what to do with realtors. And now I'm kind of taking that a step up to where we used to just offer social media. Now going forward, we're offering more and more services. So some of those are starting to roll out as like trials for clients, which is exciting. But yeah, I see continued growth. I see us hopefully getting another double for next year and just keep on bringing on more clients and taking on more team members too. I really want to have another part-time person on our team helping out my go-to girl, Hannah. She's a rock star, but making sure that, our clients are always taken care of is my number one priority. So I think growing our team, but then also slowly growing and rolling out those services as we go. I know we started out with just social media. Now we're starting to do more email marketing and advertising. So I want to keep growing those services too.
Awesome. So diversifying the business model. That's awesome. Now, if someone wanted to get involved with your business or, maybe they're early on in their marketing career, they don't really know how to land that first job. What advice would you give someone coming out of school to kind of enter your space?
Yeah, I think being eager to learn and also always being on social media, as bad as that sounds, is a great thing for what we do, because if you know the trends, if you're one of those people that's always kind of scrolling and stuff, specifically with digital marketing, it's really, really helpful. Just because you'll know what's going on and what we can take and tweak for realtors specifically. So I would say that, but then also, the people that have stood out to me the most are the people that come and they're hungry and they're looking for a job. And people that email me directly and send over their stuff is always super cool. I think that's just awesome. And they'll say that they've checked out our website and all that. And I love that. I think that's sweet. So I would say just somebody that's eager, but then also someone that knows some trends and has been on social media quite frequently.
That's awesome. Now, speaking of trends in social media, because I think we all in this society want to grow our following and get more people following. What would you advise somebody that's trying to build their following, trying to build their reach and their engagement online?
Yeah.
Right now.
I think the first step, first of all, Instagram is always changing. So really have to just kind of stay up to date on what they're doing. But I would say making sure that you have keywords in your profile is like the number one thing that we do for our clients. That's the first thing we do for anyone that works with us. And what that looks like is like going into your bio, going into your header, making sure you have keywords. Like, so for us, Luxely Real Estate Marketing, we specifically work with realtors. So we make sure to have realtor marketing or real estate marketing all over our profiles. Same with our realtors, Charleston Realtor, Charlotte Realtor, that kind of thing. So I would say keywords with whatever business you're in. Make sure that you have keywords in your title, your bio. Make sure you have it in your hashtags and just in every single post. And then on top of that, we're seeing carousels are working really, really well right now when it's paired with a trending sound. And then also reels, which is no surprise to anybody, but making sure that you use reels. Make sure you have edits. And people's attention rates now are 3 seconds long. Like we're having to make videos that change every 3 seconds because people are just so ready for the next thing. So I would tell people to keep that in mind too when you're creating content.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, I think society's mind is being more like a goldfish than anything, where they're trying to find a shiny thing.
That's so funny. You're like the third person that's talked to me about like goldfish attention spans recently. It's so true.
Well, I think that's just society in general. I know in what I do, if I'm not keeping my audience engaged on a regular basis during a training, they're not going to retain anything. And even at best, they're probably only going to retain about 10 to 12% of what I'm saying anyway. Mm. So I need to control what audience messaging they're actually getting along the way. Well, Lindsey, one thing I always like to do for everybody that comes and visits is an opportunity for them to kind of get their name out there a little bit as well. So do you have anything that you want to offer the audience that, maybe you can help them and achieve something that they can for you?
Yeah, for sure. One thing I honestly love to do for people, no matter, what business you're in, is do a free social media audit. So what that looks like is kind of going through people's profiles, figuring out the keywords that we'd want to use, and telling you pretty much exactly what to put in your profile. So that's definitely something I would love to offer. And that includes, updating your bio for you, coming up with all the keywords that we're going to use, your signature, hashtags, all that good stuff to make sure that your profiles are optimized and getting you more visibility on social.
Phenomenal. And if someone was interested in that, which I'm sure they are because it's great, how's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I would say they can directly email me. So it's Lindsey@luxleymarketing.com. And then you can also find us on social media at Luxley Marketing.
Fantastic. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for jumping on today. Your insight with marketing and just leadership in general is phenomenal. And for anybody listening out there, if you want to get a little bit more information from Lindsay, feel free to reach out to her. She's more than happy to help you out. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I can't wait to get the next episode out of the way.
Yeah, thank you so much, Justin. I appreciate it.
Of course. Have a great day.
You too.